Okay, hi everyone. We're going to be talking about citing sources this week, and before I get into the technicalities of how to cite sources and the different styles, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an overview about why we cite and when we cite, just so that we're all on the same page. Okay, so why do we cite? This, I think, is something that students don't often understand, and so it leads to them either underciting or oversighting in their papers or their projects. So when we consult books and articles and other sources of information when we're researching a topic, those citations in our papers or our projects help give credit to the original authors of the sources that we consulted and that helped us shape and form our ideas. This is really going to help others to find the information that we found and to verify our arguments, right? So to make sure that we're not just coming up with our information out of nowhere, but that we're actually entering a conversation with other sources, whether those sources are scholarly or popular, whether we're looking at books or tweets. It's really going to give our readers that background information to see how we formed our ideas. And citing is actually a really ethical practice. Giving credit is the ethical thing to do, and it helps you to avoid committing plagiarism. So failure to cite is basically taking other people's ideas and pretending that they are your own, which is a really terrible thing to do. And it can be really harmful to the person that you're plagiarizing because you're basically stealing their ideas that they worked hard to create. It can be really harmful to you because when you're here in school, it can lead to failing grades or even university expulsion. When you leave school, plagiarizing works can lead to getting fired from a job or having to have an ethical review. One other reason why we cite or why citations can be helpful is because it helps us with this research technique, which we call citation chaining. Some people also call it upstreaming, but basically what it is it's letting your sources lead you to other relevant or related sources. So you can use the citations from sources that you like or that you disagree with or that you want to know more about to help you find other related sources. So if you see something in an article and you think it's really important or really controversial or something really new, and then there's a citation, you can kind of go to that citation and see where that author got their information. And that can help you find those like fundamental texts, so those things that helped a lot of scholars formulate their ideas or that a lot of scholars look to. It can also help you find more information on a topic that doesn't seem to have a lot of information out there. Like I remember I once helped a student write a paper about SoundCloud rappers, and the first good source that we found was a student dissertation about SoundCloud rappers, and I was like having such a hard time finding any good sources for this student, but we looked at the dissertation's bibliography, and we were able to find more sources that helped this student kind of make a better argument about what they were trying to prove, which was that like SoundCloud is changing the face of rap as we know it and making rap less corporate. Really, really fascinating paper, but hard to find information out there because there's not a lot published. So citation chaining helped that student. It can definitely help you. When you cite sources in your own paper, it allows people who, or your project or whatever, it allows people who read your work to look up your sources and learn more about your topic. And that leads us to our ever important conversation about what we cite. And basically, you need to cite anything in your papers or presentations or what have you that didn't come from you. So the biggest one that I see students do and that I see students struggle with is citing other people's ideas. So when it's a direct quote, it's pretty obvious that you need to cite that direct quote, right? You need to say where you got that information. When you're paraphrasing someone else's ideas, it can be really difficult to draw that line between what's your idea and what's their idea. So what came from you and what came from this other source. That's what students really struggle with, but I think it's kind of the most important one. So any analysis and interpretations of research data, that scholars do, if you're quoting those, you need to cite that work. Statistics are a really easy one. If I see like a percentage in your work and there's no citation after it, I'm going to know that you didn't cite that original research, because it's most likely that you didn't do that research yourself, especially in this class when you're not designing a research study. Any photos that didn't come from you, I actually have a citation for this photo built into this presentation. Any music that you didn't write or create, and then charts and graphs that you can use to illustrate your point, but that you did not create. So what don't we cite? You don't need to cite your own original ideas or your own photos, but I think the idea one is the one that students struggle with, right? Like, did I think of this by myself? Am I just paraphrasing somebody else's ideas? That can be kind of complicated, but when you're synthesizing research, so when you're taking people's research and creating sort of your own opinion or your own idea of how we could solve a problem or how we could answer your research question, you don't need to cite that. If it's something that you came up with, maybe inspired by other people, you can show your inspiration and cite that, but your own ideas don't need to be cited. Don't cite your own photos. If you take them yourself, that's fine. One thing that's really important when you're not citing your own ideas is to avoid self-plagiarism. So that's kind of using direct quotes or paragraphs or entire papers from your old schoolwork. If you have questions about that while you're in school, you should check with your teacher or your professor before you do this. So authors, like published authors, can actually do this. They often do cite their own previous works, but that's because their works are previously published and available for other people to consult. So they will say, in 1999, I published paper X, and in paper X, I claimed X, Y, and Z, and then they'll cite themselves. That's okay, because we could track down paper X. No one's going to be able to track down, the 5-paragraph essay you wrote your senior year of college, because it's not published, it's not publicly available. So kind of quoting from that isn't really going to work for you, but you may see authors do that. So the other thing that you don't need to cite besides your own ideas and your own creations is common knowledge. So things like the name of a US president, the date of an event. So that's kind of why we cite, when we don't cite. And now we're on to talking a little bit about citation styles. This is a super long paragraph that I'm not going to read to you completely, but basically there are different rules for different citation styles. The two we're going to be talking about in this class are APA and MLA, and they're the two most common that you'll encounter during your time here at UVU. There are so many other different citation styles, and they all have different rules. So you may have heard of Chicago style, ASA, which is the American Sociological Association style, and they all have different rules for capitalization, for punctuation, for italics, for indentation, for footnotes, for endnotes, for in-text citations, all sorts of different things. And this is why this is my least favorite thing to teach. And it was my least favorite thing to learn as an undergrad, because I got very frustrated, and I see my students get very frustrated. But in the long run, it's better to just kind of learn these things, or at least learn some of the patterns involved in these rules, and make sure that you're citing information correctly, because it's going to lead to better grades. It's going to lead to, you knowing how to do this and people being able to find your sources in the long run. So as I said, we're covering APA and MLA. APA is on its 7th edition. That 7th edition was published, I think, in late 2019, maybe early 2020, so it's very new. Basically, when they publish new editions, it usually doesn't fundamentally change the rules of the citation styles. Print copies of these manuals are available on the first floor in the reference collection, which means they can't be checked out, but they're always there for you to consult. Here in Fulton Library, there's a ton of information online that I'm going to link to in your PDFs about how to cite different information sources. And APA style is often used in social sciences and fields like science, tech, business, education, psychology. And MLA is often used in the humanities, so things like English literature, languages, philosophy, religious studies. MLA is on its 8th edition. I can't quite recall when that was published. I think it was like 3 years ago. Anyway, it's published by the Modern Language Association of America. Again, those print copies are in the library. And for this class, you're going to be choosing one of the 2 citation styles. So you're either going to be choosing MLA or APA. I don't care which one you choose. I don't care if your topic is in the humanities and you choose APA style. That doesn't matter to me for this class. I want you to choose something. If there's one that you've struggled with and you want to work on it, go ahead and choose that. If there's one that just works for you and you know you're going to be an English major and you know you're never going to use APA and you'd like to work on MLA, totally fine with me. Choose the one that you decide works for you. So finally, why are there so many different citation styles, right? I mentioned 2. It's basically because no one can agree on one thing. This is a comic that one of our librarians, Annie, really loves about how there come to be all of these different citation styles. So these different disciplines think that they need, the best citation style that's going to totally work for them, and it's going to have all the information that they need, and it's going to look the way they want it to look, and it just, keeps going from there. It can be really complicated and really frustrating. And that's kind of a disheartening place to end this, the fact that citation styles can be really complicated and really frustrating, but it's true. I know that I still struggle with my citations. So the PDFs that are linked on this page are really, really important. I don't expect you to memorize them, but I do expect that you use those PDFs throughout this class to make sure that your citations are good and accurate. So I don't have citation styles memorized. I am always consulting my versions of these PDFs to check your citations. And you should be doing the same thing. So please do download them, keep them for your entire time at UVU. They can be a valuable resource to you, and they can be something that you use for this class, for other classes, as a guide, so that you kind of know what the rules are and know where to look when you're not quite sure what those rules are. But if you have any questions, please do ask me. Good luck with this. I know it's difficult, but once you kind of have an idea of how to do it and you practice it, it gets so much easier. I promise you. Even just teaching this class has made me better at this. So take a look at those. Use them on your quiz for this week and your assignments throughout this class, and good luck.